morning, YouTube. My name is Will, and today we're going to be talking about something I've never talked about before, and that is Evos in other countries that are not the US. So, I don't talk about this topic because, well, I don't live in other countries. I don't have any first-hand experience. In the US, I've owned an Evo 8. Well, I own an Evo 8. Owned a 9 GSR. I've owned a 10 MR. This is an RS, so I've kind of gone through them all. 8, 9, 10, RS, GSR, MR. I don't have that knowledge in other countries, obviously. So it's hard for me to comment specifically on Evos 1 through 7 because I have no first-hand experience with them. I mean, they don't even sell them here. It's not like I can go check one out or talk to a friend who owns one. Although, if any of you own them in other countries and want to give me some information, by all means, like Instagram links below, you can message me. Thinking I might set up like an email or something because sometimes you guys send me some pretty long messages and stuff to look at cars, so thinking about doing that as well. I don't know if that's something that would be helpful to you guys or not. All right, so this really breaks down to 3 parts. One, is this purchase emotional? 2, how long do you plan to keep it? And 3, how much can you safely afford? There are certain cars, generations of cars, different things that spark emotion. The Evo 9 is one of those. I think the Evo 6 is one of those. There's a lot of them out there. But you can also have emotion if you yourself are attached to a particular generation. Maybe it's one that came out when you were in high school, or maybe it was your first car, whatever. I will tell you right now that that's pretty much the worst financial decision you're going to make. But I get it. You know, there are those times where you're going to make that. You just got to be real careful with those. And that's really all I'm going to say with that, because if you're throwing emotion into this decision, nothing I say or anybody else says is really going to matter, because it's emotional. It's not, you're not using logic at that point. My wife watches all the videos, so I'm driving out of my way in this parking lot to slowly creep up on the geese. I think he's asleep. It doesn't seem like a safe place to sleep, if you ask me. Oh, he woke up. Okay, so, where was I? All right, point number 2. How long are you going to have the car? Now, you may have all the best intentions of keeping a car for a certain length of time. Life happens. We all get that. So you just got to be honest with yourself and do the best you can with estimating. I know me personally, generally speaking, a year or 2 is pretty good for me. We've had the Focus ST, I think it would be 2 years this spring. And that's like phenomenal for me to have a car that long. So, if you know, especially that you don't plan on keeping cars an extremely long time, then it's really important to find that balance between desirable models, because they're going to sell quicker, but desirable models cost more and are generally harder to find, which is why they sell quicker. Get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to buy an Evo. Now start looking, and just don't rush it. I was looking for a very long time. Basically, I was following the market constantly for years before I pulled the trigger on this one, and I did it very quickly because I knew that, hey, that was a good deal. I knew it right away when I saw it, and that's what will essentially happen. You know, the more you follow the market, the more you learn it. You know, you're going to recognize those gems that aren't as obvious. My car was not an obvious gem when it was listed, because it was listed very poorly, because the sellers did a poor job of listing it. Honda 2000 flying up on me, or just flying in general, I'm not sure which. I thought that was an RS5 for a second. Still nice. All right, and the third point, talking about what you can afford, you have to keep in mind that if you stretch yourself to afford what seems to be the more desirable model, the model that may hold its value better, but in doing so, put yourself in a financial position where you can't maintain that car up to where it needs to be, then you're kind of defeating the purpose. Not to mention just the stress alone, it's just going to suck a lot of that enjoyment out of it for you. With that overview, which really applies to pretty much any car you buy, I do want to hit a few specific things regarding the other Evos. Again, I'm in the US, I've not experienced these cars firsthand. I'm very leery about what I can find on the internet as far as accuracy, because I know a lot of what I find on the internet about the US 8s, 9s, and 10s is incorrect. So I can only imagine some of the stuff that is incorrect on the other ones, especially since those are older. A lot of them came out before the internet was really popular and, you know, widespread, so who knows where this information is coming from. That being said, they basically break into 3 sections. Technically 4. You have the EVOs 1 through 3, you have the EVOs 4, 5, and 6, and you have the EVOs 7, 8, 9, and then you have the EVO 10 as its own thing. Was that a Wrapped or some type of Mercedes first edition crossover AMG? Not really sure what that was. Okay, so the EVOs 1 through 3, those are obviously the first generations. Those are the most, I guess you could almost argue, kind of the most pure, in the sense of they were literally just doing it for racing. Things changed a little bit in the 4, 5, and 6s. One of the biggest things is they flipped the motor around. So if you look at an EVO 1 through 3, it looks more like a DSM or like an Eclipse from back in the day, where you see the EVOs where the motor has been reversed for better weight distribution. That comes later on the EVO 4s. And then you have the 7, 8s, and 9s, which is going to be, like the one I'm in, the most modern before you get to the 10. So the most modern, the CTA platform, the CTA 9. I don't know what they call the 10 platform. Regardless. All right, it's very well common knowledge that the EVO 9 is, we won't get into the debates of why this is or whether or not I agree with it, but the EVO 9 is the most desirable in the US, and I feel like it's very desirable in other parts of the world too. It's the last of that section before the 10s, before there's a big change. The EVO 6s seem to have a similar response. You also have the Tommy Mannequin, the Swedish racing driver that won a bunch of stuff. There was a special edition of that too, which is just a completely different thing we're not going to talk about. But the 6s in general seem to be what I sometimes see people refer to as like, oh, the last true raw Evo, because Mitsubishi changed classes or something again when they started with the 7s. It went to the, I want to say, Setia platform, maybe? I'm not sure. I could be just completely making that word up. I don't know if there's a similar thought with EVO 3s, because, again, they change with the 4s dramatically. So if anybody knows that, I'd be curious to know. And obviously, if you're in other parts of the world and you have information, by all means, please comment below. Throw them at me. I'd love to kind of keep track of this stuff and for future videos and just for future people who want to know these answers. The one thing I did run across is it seems like the EVO 5, there was some World Rally Championship changes or Mitsubishi changed class. I'm not really sure the details, but basically I think the 5 is where you start to see some of like some different seats and brakes and things that maybe didn't quite, I don't know why the difference, but there is a difference there. So you see a little bit of a jump, you know, from the 3 to the 4, and then you kind of see it again from the 4 to the 5. But from my understanding, the 5 to the 6, not a huge jump. But I think the 6 is just, the reason the 6 is more popular, I believe, than the 4s and the 5s is for the same reason the 9 is more popular. My goodness. You know, it's just that last hurrah of a generation kind of thing. You know, if you've driven an EVO 9 or an 8 or 7, because they're all very similar, and you drive an EVO 10, it's a very big difference. I imagine it's a similar thing when you drive like an EVO 4, 5, or 6, and then you get an EVO 7. Likewise, I imagine it's probably similar if you drive an EVO 1, 2, or 3, and then get an EVO 4. So you're always going to kind of have that, and for better or worse, you know, we're not going to argue, because I can't argue it. I don't know this stuff firsthand. But you are going to always see that kind of like the last of a generation. Sometimes you'll see it with the first of a generation too. I think it's funny that in what little research I did, and just in general when people talk, the 7s don't get a lot of talk, and I don't know why that is. You know, the 8s didn't really seem to be a massive jump. What's funny is, for all you people not in the US who maybe don't know this, and for those of you who are in the US who don't know this, is that the US EVO 8 is essentially an EVO 7 from Japan. I mean, there's so many things that for like crash regulations they had to take out. That's why we don't have active yaw control, because of crash regulations, I believe is the main reason. Ooh, Focus ST in Kona Blue. For those of you who don't know, my wife and I have a Focus ST. That's her daily. It's Focus, but it's kind of blue. Mike's gonna pick it up. It never seems to, which is great for video purposes, but man, that exhaust rattle is getting bad. Even at idle, sometimes it'll just get bad. I want to get a new exhaust here soon, so I was kind of just waiting, putting it off. But it's loud enough that I'm hearing it in the car. It's one thing if I can't hear it in the car and kind of pretend it doesn't exist, but it's getting harder to pretend. All right, so I hope there's been some usefulness out of this video. Like I said, I don't want to get too in the weeds with some of the Evos and comparing why you should buy one or the other, because I don't know that I trust the information that I have yet. There's some of you out there watching who can confirm some information or has some good, preferably some good reliable sources that you could show me. I'd love to have that. Was you sleeping? Was you sleeping? Oh man, shake it out. With that being said, keep in mind that when you go from the Evos 1 through 3 to the 4, you're going to see a slightly bigger car. That's where you're going to see that jump. And then when from the 6s to the 7s, you're going to see that jump again. And then you're not going to see anything again until the 10s. So as far as like massively different driving dynamics and feel, that's where you're going to see those changes. So if you're in another part of the world that has these models and you have no experience in them, I would say the Evo 3s, the Evo 6s, and the Evo 9s are going to be the ones you want to drive to kind of see those differences, because it's going to show you the best of what the platform of which each generation can do, really. If I was going overseas today, going to live in a place where I could buy all these cars and I was going to buy one, first thing I'm going to do is drive either an Evo 1, 2, or 3, and then either an Evo 4, 5, or 6, and then either an Evo 7, 8, or 9, although those I'm fairly familiar with. Not that I wouldn't drive every single year if given the opportunity, but those are the, at least get one in those gaps. Oh, hi, Lotus. You gonna say hi? Was you napping? You know the rules. Lotus, you know the rules. Thank you. All right, hi. Lotus. All right, with that, I hope you guys got some usefulness out of this video. Like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to follow along with my Evo and just overall car content. I do plan on doing some more videos with the other Evos around the world, especially, like I said, as they start to come back towards the US or start to be legally imported into the US. Love to get my hands on like an Evo 1 or 2, if nothing else, just to experience it and see what it's like. Instagram links for myself and the pups below if you want to see more of them. I know a lot of my content is kind of split. It's either about cars or it's about the pups. I mostly stick them in their own videos. They do make a lot of cameos though in my car videos, but otherwise they have a lot of their own videos as well. There's their Instagram. As always, appreciate you guys, and we will see you on the next video. Anybody want to say bye? Oh, we got the zoomies. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye.